Hey everyone, welcome. Happy Thanksgiving. In case I forget to say it at the end, I'll tell you all happy Thanksgiving. I'm Natalie Lowe with the Sustainable Events Forum. Super excited to have all of you here today. If you've only ever joined us for Earth Day, our fall is a little bit different. This is a little bit more information and a little bit less entertainment. So Mama Nature seems a little cranky. That was the Apple Sustainability Report. Fantastic job in sort of making some steps forward. And I love how they're acknowledging that they're not doing everything, but they're working on some things. And you probably heard some things in that. They talk about plastics. They talk about recycled aluminum. They talk about leather. Would love to see in the chat if anyone knows why they're talking about leather. Some of you have been here before and know about the issue that cows bring. They talk about electricity, and they talk about supply chain management. They talk about planting forests instead of just planting trees. And really importantly, they talk about mangroves and they talk about grasslands. I love that they talk about water because that is such an important issue that we are not paying enough attention to. And they talk a lot about carbon neutrality and meeting their deadlines. So some great work and some good news. And I spoke to people from Apple this week and they acknowledged we're not doing everything well. They take the criticism really seriously and they move forward with it. So first and foremost, I wanted to say welcome. We are coming to you from, I'm situated in an area of Canada that is Haudenosaunee and Anishinaabe territory. So if you ever get the chance to come to Niagara, I would encourage you to go and see Landscape of Nations. So today we are split almost down the middle, half returning people and half new people. If you've only joined us for today, please get into the chat and make some friends. I cannot see the chat from mine, but my good buddy Matthew Blackburn is in the chat and he will be taking all of your questions and compiling them and working through them. What we're going to do today is address your burning questions. And then we're going to follow up on Sunday. You're going to get a Thanksgiving gift from us. That is all of the questions that all 78 of you asked that we will then answer to the best of our ability. Some of them we don't have great answers for, like how do we fix XYZ? Might not be fixable yet, but we'll tell you what we can. And there will be all of the links and all of the resources. Want to say hello to Matt in the chat right now, if you guys can give him some love, and a shout out to AV Canada and Experiential Experts. I have been, full disclosure, extremely sick. And Rose Timmerman-Gitze has pulled us along. I don't know how she made sense of my delirious texts and emails from my sickbed, but she did. And we're here and we'll make it happen. So thank you for your patience and the people who've been here before, TSEFers, give us some lift in the chat with answers and questions and ideas and suggestions for those who are into it. Today is all about your questions and answers, how you can actually get things done. But one of the things that we need to address is how you are feeling. And we asked you in the questionnaires how you are feeling about sustainability and the climate crisis, the emergency. So if we can have the emotion slide up, Arash, that would be fantastic. We took all of yours and weighted them. Most of you said that you were extremely scared, worried, anxious. Those were the items that came up. And one of the things that we know is that dealing with this every single day, being an event planner is stressful, being in the event industry is stressful, plus having the stress of the climate emergency layered on top. It's tough, right? It really is tough. Here's what I will tell you is that the people that are here in this group, these are the people that you can share that burden with. And they say a problem shared is a problem halved. So we at TSEF, the only reason that we exist is to be a resource to you and to help connect you with other people that are asking the same questions and wondering the same things that you are and finding solutions. So we're going to get into those as much as we can. We are on all the social media platforms, and I'm not great at following up directly with anyone, but you can email us or reach out. LinkedIn, I'm probably the best at. I don't know. I'm not a boomer, I promise, but I struggle with it. But all of our people are on LinkedIn, and that's a great place where you can see everybody. So I want you to connect with each other. I want you to connect with the advisory board members who you're going to meet in a video coming up. And I want you to feel everything that you're feeling. So if you feel worried, feel the worry and work through it. We've all been there. Reach out to us. But what I can tell you is that taking action has been, for me, the best way for me to reduce the stress that I have. So we're going to go into videos from our TSEF advisory board. So I think, Arash, you've got it's more of a hello and an introduction, and they had some little tips and tricks that they wanted to give to you. So Arash, if you can roll those videos.
Hello, my name is Danelle. In the spirit of Thanksgiving, I would like to express my gratitude for becoming a part of the Sustainable Events Forum. I am thankful for this new community and my renewed sense of hope, where I no longer feel like I have to tackle the climate crisis all on my own. Together, we have the opportunity to create new ways to produce more sustainable events that leave a lasting impact on the most important client we can serve, our planet.
Hi, friends. My tip would be not to wait for permission or the next climate disaster before you start taking action on the sustainability of your events. There are lots of things you can do that nobody will ever know about unless you tell them. And P.S., we think you should tell them. But don't let getting permission from your boss or your client hold you back from taking action. And if you need some ideas, reach out to anyone from the TSEF community and we'll be happy to give you some inspiration. Good luck out there.
Hello friends, Matt from the Shaw Centre in Ottawa here. Welcome to this wonderful event. I hope you're having a good time so far. The Shaw Centre is a LEED Gold certified building and recently voted in 2020 the world's best convention centre. We're doing great things for sustainability here, and I'd love to tell you more. If I had one thing though that I could put on a wish list for how we could make the events industry more sustainable, I'd say planners, get those RFP questions in your RFPs. The more we see them as venues, the more we have the opportunity to put our best foot forward and make real change. Thank you. Please enjoy the rest of the event, and I look forward to seeing you all someday soon.
Hello, sustainable event folks. My tip for you is to have fresh, potable water available to your attendees on event site and make it easy to find. That way they can refill their reusable water bottles while they're there. Do one better and let them know before they attend that it will be there for them on site. Enjoy.
Water bottles. Don't leave home without them. Reusable water bottles, they go everywhere with me. And if you arrive somewhere in a destination or somewhere where you do not have a refillable station, opt for aluminum can. These are infinitely recyclable. Every action counts. You can make a difference.
Hi, my name is Robert Thompson, Managing Partner at AV Canada. I am delighted and honored to be part of the advisory committee to TSEF. My big sustainable action tip is to create a CO2 report card for our clients that will calculate the carbon footprint at the end of each event we deliver. This includes AV Canada equipment, electrical usage, staff travel, warehouse usage, trucking, and more. Our goal at AV Canada is to become carbon neutral by 2027. This would be a step closer that would also inspire our clients in their journey. Thank you.
So those of you that are new to the Sustainable Events Forum, we operate on 4 pillars. So it is educate, inspire, collaborate, and act. And we kind of follow those pillars through everything that we do. It was what we felt would enable us to have some focus and to make the most impact. And part of making that impact is through our advisory board. And the people that you just saw in those videos constitute all different areas of the events industry, and they are our advisory board, who really steer us and what the industry needs right now, as well as interaction with all of you. So it's Robert, Matt, Rose, Melissa, Danelle, who is in Fiji right now, and Liz, who is in Greece right now, and Hannah, who I think is she is logging in from the back seat of a car. She's coming back from an event right now. But they are our advisory board. They bring expertise kind of from around the industry. And we've had quite the year. So in the last year, we've had a lot of growth in sort of different areas, including education and specifically measurement of emissions. So we're going to start to talk about that in our last section, implementing change into your meetings. We want you to mark down right now, our big event every year is Earth Day for Event People. And that is on Monday, April 22nd, 2024. And this year we have something really cool going on there is it's a really, really cool thing where we will actually be going through an entire event. It's a conference that's being held on April 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th. And we will be bringing a couple of planners on to work through the measurement of those emissions and developing the process. And then we're going to talk about it on Earth Day. So we took all of your comments, suggestions, ideas, your issues, and we put them in here today. But it's only an hour, and there were a lot of questions. Some of you were even emailing us extra questions. So my Thanksgiving gift to you is on Sunday morning, you are going to get an email from us with all of the questions. So you can see the questions that everybody else was asking, and we're going to give you the resources where you can find the answers or learn more about those. In some cases, we'll give you the answer, but we'll always give you the resource so that we can back it up. Today is organized into 3 general parts based on sort of loosely what you were asking. A lot of questions were, how do I talk to these people? How do I ask these questions? How do I communicate? What we felt was really you were asking us, how do I persuade someone to take more sustainability steps than they are currently? So we're going to talk about persuading people. It's kind of communication, right? Communication with a purpose. And I know many of you can be very, very persuasive. So then a lot of you had questions about general items. How does this work? I don't even know what I don't know. How do I figure things out? So then it was education. So where can you learn more? And we're going to give you a variety of educational opportunities. All of these are really small, short, quick, easy ways to learn more. And I'm going to talk a little bit in the education section about why we actually all need to learn a little bit more, because we're making some errors in some of the things that we do. So last and certainly most important, though, was implementation. So what are the trends? What is everyone doing? What's working well? And what are the things that we maybe need to drop and move towards more effective ways of making our events more sustainable? Now, I get asked this question a lot. The overall footprint of an event is not that big. Why do we bother? I think events influence people. I think a large part of the world agrees with me on that. I don't think that's an amazing deduction on my part. So let's use our events to increase people's understanding and awareness of sustainability. Some of it will be very front of house, and some of it we will do in subtle ways. But I think our events can help bring us to a tipping point where more people are taking action. So I have absolutely an agenda today. Right now, we have 15% of all the RFPs. So I've talked to all of my venues, talked to all my people. They're like about 15% of the RFPs have questions about sustainability. By Earth Day, so it's about 6 months, I want us to be at 85. So I want to flip those numbers, right? So right now, 15% are asking, 85% are not. Let's flip it and make it be the other way. So a A lot of you have asked about the financial or business case for becoming more sustainable, and that's a tough one, but really that's why the RFP is so important, is that if you want a venue or a hotel or a supplier to change how they're working, then what we need to do is we really need to be asking that question. So let's talk a little bit about really great ways that we can communicate to our people, whether they are stakeholders that we work for or their attendees at our events. And you're going to get all of this itemized in the follow-up, I promise you, because it's kind of a lot. But if you have a pen and paper, I want you to write these things down. So there are 5 key levers that we use in sales and marketing that I think apply to climate communication. So one is unity. We want to feel like the people that we are listening to and taking direction from are like us. So we try to find a way that we have similarities. Social proof, right? Everybody's doing it. It's, I think it's the only thing that explains the keeping up with Kardashian success. Then reciprocation. It's why we tend to give giveaways, which are problematic sustainably, but when we feel like someone has given us something, then we want to reciprocate, right? We're social animals. And another big thing that comes into play is continuity. So people want to, if they take a small step towards something, so if you can get someone to take a small step on sustainability, and then the next step becomes part of their understanding of who they are and why they take action. So it is in their minds, they want to be consistent, and that continuity can help us build momentum, right? And you'll even notice it in yourself. You start with this. 5 years ago, I started with TSEF, and now I'm like picking up spiders and gently taking them outside. I even did that with a mouse. Yeah. And I was like, inside, I was screaming like a 4-year-old girl. But, years ago, I would have been so put off by that. But now that I've embraced sort of sustainability and the things that we're doing to the planet, you'll start to notice your behavior changing. Shocking, but it happens. Lastly, and the most important lever that we can use in changing behavior regarding climate emergency is we hate to have loss. So we cling to things if we think we're going to lose them, and that's called loss aversion. So if you can show someone something that they might lose if they don't take action, that's a very strong way to propel them to act when we're communicating with them. So whether you're trying to convince someone to give you funds for sustainability efforts, or you're trying to convince attendees, these are some of the levers. What I've done is I've found examples where different organizations have used these successfully, and we'll link to them when you get that on Sunday so that you can see in real time exactly how people are using those levers to propel forward. So the last thing that I will suggest to you, and this is a really good way, is don't ask for feedback, particularly with people that are critical. Ask for advice. So when they start to criticize, well, you're making me recycle, or I don't want to have to bring, flip it around and say, this is what I'm trying to do. How would you do it? Or, how can you help me? And you take them, when you ask for feedback, you get a critic. But when you ask for advice, you get a collaborator. So that's really, I think, we'll go into it a little bit more, but that's the best that we've found on sort of climate communication, how we can implement it into everything from our committee meetings through the RFP and the contracting process, and then finally to the event attendee. So Harvest is obviously focused on food, and many of you asked, what are the quick wins? What are the easiest ways for us to make an impact? And drawdown.org has the stats. They will tell you food choices and reducing food waste are absolutely the best ways to do that. So you wanted to know how to do it practically. So I called Second Harvest and said, who's doing a great job? They said Redstone. I went to Carly at Redstone, said, who's your food waste person? And they put me in touch with Laura. And Laura has some great advice and suggestions for you guys. And we have a video. She was gracious enough to give me some of her time this week. And she's got some great advice for those of you I like to approach. So we're going to roll that video and enjoy Laura from Redstone. So we're talking to Laura Van Zutphen, who I love your last name, by the way, Laura. And Laura works in Toronto as a very busy meeting planner. And you guys are actually really good about being on topic for committing to having a greener event. And one of our big issues is food waste. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about how you sort of create a game plan going into an event to address food waste, specifically for the purpose that not everybody's doing it. And we need to get to the point where what you guys are doing becomes common practice. So I want to ask you first about your game plan. When you look at an event that has significant food in it, how do you plan for reducing your food waste and addressing it?
Yeah, great question. And I mean, we work with so many different clients who have varying, attendee numbers and varying needs for their events and, what exactly they want to hit in terms of targets. And 9 times out of 10, or quite often, targets are, they want to have a great impact in sustainability. They want to make sure they kind of net out in their events. So it's really nice to start hearing this kind of almost like you said, tipping scales start to happen. Kind of sad that it's taken so long for us to get here, but at least it seems like we're starting to take on the trend now. we're pushing through.
Yeah, we've got our teeth in them now. We ain't letting go.
Yeah, we're not letting go. So exactly. So we basically at the get-go of planning an event, we sit down with the client, we go over what their needs are, what their overall goals are for all of their events. So when we as an organization ourselves kind of put at their forefront, have you thought about sustainability? Have you thought about food waste at your event and how you want to handle it? Some of the folks have had previous experience. They have certain things they want to accomplish, but a lot of folks don't. So for the folks that don't, we typically say, let's have these conversations first with the venue. Let's see what they're working with. Do they even own a green bin? Are they able to, put the food waste in somewhere that is somewhat responsible? Not only that, is it something that are they able to partner with, companies that can accept food donations and in what certain ways as well? On top of that, are they able to let you have to-go containers if it's a buffet kind of style meal?
Right. You mentioned that you've actually been in the position in Canada where you've signed waivers in order to allow people to give away food. We'll check, but there is legislation in place in Canada that protects people, but yet you're still being asked to sign a waiver, but not by everybody. Is that correct?
That's correct. So it's been only a few select venues that have asked this. So luckily and happily, it's not many. But for the few that it is, I have been asked to sign a waiver. Even individual attendees sometimes have been asked to sign a waiver on their way out as well, not even just on behalf of the client. So some folks are getting, some folks get nitpicky with that kind of thing. And it's very interesting because we were also saying, where you go to a restaurant and you can have food to go, no problem. Or, like you said, we go to tons of events where you have to go containers and you can take food home, no problem.
Right.
So,
Well, and think of all the food delivery, right? So the restaurant or the venues are sort of losing control over their food at that point. Maybe that's where it came from. Something interesting for us to follow up on for sure. I'm curious. I'm going to dig into that. When you look at reducing food waste, one of the things that we get presented as pushback is, well, my client's not asking for it, or they're a little bit hesitant, and how do we manage the attendee experience? Can you maybe talk a little bit, because as planners, we have a fear of not having enough food or not having the right kind of food. So how have you been managing that?
Yeah, so switching up kind of the attendee experience is always something that kind of works in our favor. So sometimes if you have an annual event that's kind of rinse and repeat, the same thing, same attendees attend, you kind of want to switch up. If it's a sit down, let's maybe do a reception style with a couple food stations, pass appetizers instead. Even promoting that fresh kind of experience for an idea or for an event format can really help the food waste and minimize that aspect just by moving from a sit down to just, past appetizers. 9 times out of 10, I find if it's at a food station, like you can also then, change that into past appetizers if it's not selling so much at the station. So like even that change in service can really help, minimize that waste as well. So I find that super, super helpful. And, just chatting with your client to make sure they're okay with this type of change. And then again, working with the venue to ensure like, okay, it's 8 o'clock, the event goes to 11. How much food do we have? Let's increase service. Like, let's go out a little bit more and hit them a bit harder. So to try and avoid that.
Right. So when you address your food waste, do you have a little bit of a checklist that you use, even if it's just mentally, or are there things that are just sort of no-go for you?
It's more like, I guess, my own moral checklist that we go off of. So
I'm cool with that.
Yeah, I don't like waste, so I try everything I can to see what we can do there. And that's where those conversations with the venue prior to really come in handy. So, it's something that's important to myself and then in turn, it becomes important to our clients as well, which is great.
You said something interesting though. You said it's important to you and then it becomes important to the client. Do you think it's a role that you've taken on helping to educate your client in these things?
100%. And as an organization, we get sent on a numerous different, client trips or things like that to kind of further educate ourselves on these fields. And, the more you learn about it, the more you just become overwhelmed with a feeling of wanting to help and do better in an industry that you're so deeply invested in. So, it's something we see every day. If you have a 3-day conference, if you have a 1-day wedding, like there's so much food and like what are we doing after? So and if you're passionate about something, I find it kind of it's very hard to not drink that Kool-Aid and kind of get involved in that as well.
Right. But the reality is that we want your passion to be transferred to other planners because you're out there trying to make a change. You could really use some lift, right? Swaying those venues. So if you were to say one thing to your fellow planners to encourage them to take the reduction of food waste, sort of make it universal, what would you suggest that they do?
I would, suggest probably just ask questions. Not a lot of people ask questions anymore. They kind of just see something in a contract or see something as a way that it's always been done and don't kind of challenge it or ask questions. So yes, it's something, food waste has been an ongoing issue for many, many years now. But, it's still kind of something we let slide by. So unless you don't poke it, unless you don't ask questions, it's never going to be something that you're going to see change in. So, and doing that at the very beginning is something that's super important because then if it's a last minute thought, it's going to look that way to your attendees as well. Like this is something we just had to throw in because it looks good and it's checking a box. You want to be intentional with this change, and that's the only way you can do it.
I would ask every planner to encourage another planner to start asking about food waste and food sort of quantities, right? And the other thing is, what if we started asking in our follow-up, the food waste from this event was donated to XYZ, or we were able to reduce food waste at this event by XYZ. does this matter to you? Yes or no? A question that we could then take back to our client and say, look, this actually really matters to the attendees. Or do you think that we should be communicating with the attendees sort of at the event? Because I get a lot of questions about that.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes, like there's things in events where you're scanning a QR code and it's like, where does, X, Y, and Z go towards, or something in sort of a quantitative almost aspect like that, where it's, you can see what your impact is making a difference on. So certain things like that can be helpful.
Really, what my question is that what can we tell planners to help them encourage other planners to address food waste, because we're not doing it consistently? And how can we start to make the case that this is important to our attendees?
So making the case important to the attendees, like you said, I think it starts at the very beginning. So, even in like your know before you go communications on your company website, like really make it apparent as to what you're doing for sustainability. Having certain areas that can connect folks to additional resources to help them or encourage them to then make those steps as well is super helpful. In those know before you go communications, even just for the attendees coming to the event, just saying, hey, be mindful of your food reduction, or hey, bring a even reusable water bottle, certain things like that to, put it in their minds beforehand can go a long way.
I love kind of some of the feedback, and I was speaking somewhere and someone said to me, well, my people don't want water stations because they want bottled water. They said, and the exact comment was, I don't drink tap water. And I'm like, where do you think the water in your bottled water comes from? Because honey, it is not the tears of angels. But it's interesting because what we're dealing with is somebody has an idea that their worth in some way is reflected by what kind of water they're drinking. Laura, I want to say on behalf of everyone here, and it's our harvest celebration, which I guess we call Thanksgiving in Canada. It's certainly one of my favorite holidays because we're full of gratitude. And I want to say thank you for everything that you're doing to address food waste. And I hope so many people see what you're doing and take note and copy what you're going to be a trendsetter, baby. You're now an influencer.
That's what I'm hoping for.
Laura, thank you so much.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
I am having a day, guys. Like, some of you have been here before. I am just having a day. And if you missed the first part, I am coming off, I'm recovering from COVID and I'm not smart. So cut me some slack, please. I apologize. I'll make it up to you all, I promise. So, I learned so much from Laura. It was really fascinating learning how they were actually taking the ideas and putting them into practice and really using their passion. So Laura, I got 4 things from Laura: that her passion really helps her persuade her clients. And I love that, right? It's in her enthusiasm is infectious. That she talks to her client early and she sets some goals. That she starts talking to the venue right away about those goals that she set and about asking questions. And I was shocked when I found out that she's actually right. We're not asking questions like, what can you recycle? We give them sort of our requirements, but then we're sort of not figuring out what they can do and asking the right questions to kind of fit into it. So this kind of leads us into something that's becoming a little bit of a thing, and that is, are we educated enough, or are we getting our education from, sellers? And no diss to sellers, I'm one too, but are we getting the right kind of education? And so I had this interesting thing happen where a really smart woman came up to me and she said, Natalie, your slides were great, but I wish that your scope 1, 2, and 3, so scope 1, 2, and 3 are different categories of emissions that we track. And she said, I really wished instead of being in a straight line that they had been in a circle, because we want a circular economy. And if you understand how that wasn't a great observation, I'll explain it to you. That would be like me asking you what the temperature is outside, and you tell me it's 112 kilometers, right? Like, they were two incredibly important sustainability issues, but they have nothing to do with each other. And so I didn't even know how to explain to her that she had somehow gotten her wires crossed. But it goes back to, we grab onto concepts without really sort of grounding ourselves in basic science and sustainability principles. And everybody gets kind of annoyed with me when I go back to that. It's like I'm trying to make them learn algebra or something, which, you know, okay, fair, it's hard. But I have some ideas on where you can get some of the education. Some of it is completely free. And we've got, storyofstuff.org. And I don't know if chat is working right now or not, but Rose has created, so if you want to take a picture of that, I would tell you Story of Stuff is really powerful, especially if you are still struggling with things like plastic water bottles. Drawdown, if you go into their drawdown.org, if you go into their resources page, they actually have in their great videos, and they're short, right? Like 8 to 10 minutes, 12 minutes, that will help you kind of start to understand some of the key concepts that we talk about, right? Circularity, when recycling works and when it doesn't, what we mean by carbon neutral, and really help you get a grounding, completely free. The UN courses and the greenhouse gas protocol courses are considered really top level, but they are pretty advanced, right? So I've taken almost all of them. I don't know if everybody needs to spend 4 weeks learning about sewage systems. You might. I found it sort of interesting, but if you're looking for quick practical things, I still think our course, so the TSEF course, was created and designed. The link is, I think the link is going to be somewhere out there. Melissa Delorier, thank you for dropping that into the chat. If you go to tsef.ca under Learn, our course is there, and I think we've done the work for you and distilled it down and created something that sort of will help you have a bit of a grounding. It's the same course that the university students have been taking for 5 years. If you're advanced, it'd be too simple for you, but it really just kind of helps you avoid making those errors of sustainability is a complex issue. So we actually have a really cool opportunity coming up that we are going to be doing. It's an experiential learning opportunity. So I've gotten a lot of your questions about how do we measure emissions? It's not something we can do in an hour long. And I've presented twice, I think 3 times, on measuring emissions, and it's too complex for people to do it in one sitting. And so what we've done is, over the next 6 months, we've got a conference that will be taking place. It's the Regeneration Unconference for Sustainability in Private Schools. It will be taking place in Hamilton and the first week of April, and we are working with an incredible team. And there is an opportunity for 2 planners. If the fit is right, we might take some suppliers on it, maybe a destination that would be a good fit. But the idea is that you will work with TSEF, and we are doing the full accounting. So we're working with the folks from the Climate Emergency Office in Hamilton. We are working with the environmental engineers, and everything will be audited. And what we're really working towards is, how can we make this a process that can then be applied to every single event? So rather than just sitting and hearing me talk about it, we're going to dig right in, and we're going to do the work. We're going to find the data. We're going to talk to the experts and work through it. So if you are interested, it will be a 20-week course, about 30 to 90 minutes per week. We're going to take some breaks for the holidays. So it'll go from late October to April of 2024. And then we will be using that at Earth Day to present, this is what we figured out, this is what we found. And, you know, Earth Day is a little bit more of a sexy show than this is right now. It's a little bit more of a broadcast, but it's going to have some real teeth into it because we'll be able to look at exactly what we were able to do. So it's not cheap. It's going to be $500 to do that course. And we are only taking 2. We've got people signed up already. We've only got 2 spots available. So if you're interested, drop me a line at info@tsef.ca. And I would love right now to have a corporate planner. We've got association, we've got independent, but you know, we're looking for people that are sort of good at process and can help us sort of plot this out. So it should be fun. I'm kind of excited about it. And the other attendees are really excited too. So it should be fun. So now we kind of get to the meat and potatoes. I keep talking about food. But all of you wanted to know, how do I make this actually work? And the questions were quite wide. There wasn't, you know, one question that I could say. Actually, no one question showed up more than once. So we did the review for most of you that were asking, what is the most important thing for me to do? So the number one thing that you can do is to reduce your emissions at your event is going to involve food waste. Why? Because there is so much food that is being wasted, and because wasted food becomes methane. And methane is a really fast, high-acting greenhouse gas. So it's a quick, easy win. And there are a couple of ways to reduce that. If you go to tsef.ca resources, you're going to see in there what is called the food waste hierarchy. And they say, reduce your waste at source, then donate to humans, then donate to animals, then compost, then landfill. So one of the things that we want to be really careful about, and that's why we wanted to really put the spotlight on what Laura is doing, is just reducing that waste right at the source. Even going to compost, you are still creating greenhouse gases. It's not a net zero. So composting is better than landfill, but having less waste to begin with is really your goal. So some of you asked, I'm already working on food waste, what's next? Well, then you're going to want to reduce the amount of animal proteins, right? And you want to reduce it because we keep chopping down things like, you know, the Amazon rainforest to develop more cattle, whether that be sheep or cows. And so you want to go towards a more plant-based Julie, fellow food nerd here, and that's absolutely it, is that we need to eat more fruits and vegetables. Your doctor will tell you that, and your environmental scientist will tell you that. So then let's say that you're already doing that. Your next step is something that they mentioned in the Apple video, and that is you need to work on your supply chain. So you can influence your supply chain up and down. Right? So the people that you buy from and the people that you sell to, start asking questions. So Catherine Hayhoe says, we need to talk about climate change. We're already doing that. The question now is, can we talk about it in a more direct way that affects what we're doing every single day? Right? And it gets back to that RFP. Even if you put one question on your RFP, and we have sample RFP questions for you in the resources page, even if you just ask, do you have a sustainability plan? Do you track your emissions? Can you give me an emissions report at the end of it? So outside of food, we know that flights are problematic, right? It's transportation. So there's 2 kinds of transportation. There's the transportation of people and the transportation of things. And sometimes the transportation of things can far outweigh what we're even doing. And that comes down to our supply chain, right? So we need to be conscious of what we're buying. If you have to fly, there are 2 ways that you can reduce the emissions from your flight. One is to fly direct, and the other one is to check and see if the airline that you're choosing has a good sustainability program. they're not great right now. And I think we need to ask the airlines to work on it and to be a little bit more forthright about what they're doing well and what they're not doing. I don't see flying going away anytime soon, but if you can, choosing a location. And just recently, Shauna McKinley had a post on about an association in Europe. This association chose their destination based on having key train access. And then they had over 1,000 attendees. They asked people to volunteer to take the train instead of a plane. And then they tracked the emissions savings. And I think it was something like 130 tons. You'll see it on our LinkedIn page, and I'll include the link on Sunday so that you can see where they made these savings. But the flights, they add up quickly. So let's talk about trends in sustainable events, because lots of people were asking about it. And I'm laughing because you could tell that I had COVID brain when I was doing this. I did 3 trends we identified, then I listed 5. So here they are: measuring emissions, circular economy, green energy, offsets, naming and shaming, and the death of recycling. So measuring emissions is the question on everybody's mind right now. It's not complex, but it is hard because finding the data is somewhat difficult, and understanding how to translate the data into emissions and what that actually means. So something that we will be doing in the course that we do for the next 6 months when we work through this actual event. The great thing is the client is prepared to take whatever steps they need to keep the emissions low. So measuring emissions is absolutely the big trend. It's coming about because regulation is coming, and because companies have made commitments that they are now being held either legally or social proof or, public relations wise being held to. And you've seen the clock. What we're seeing right now is emissions are trending up instead of trending down. So there is a sense of urgency. Circular economy is where we reduce the waste. So instead of a take, make, break, dispose, we start to reuse things. And that is something that I think is really applicable to the events industry, and something that we need to start having more conversations about. Is that if I'm moving out of the conference center on Sunday and I'm throwing out all the things that you're moving in on Sunday night, why can't I just pass them on? And we really have to figure that out. Green energy, tons and tons and tons and tons of questions about green energy. So I'm actually going to take recycling and energy and lump them into one, because one of the things that we need to understand is that energy generation and recycling are local issues. So the federal government in any jurisdiction generally is not overseeing that. In Canada and the US, it's a provincial or a state issue. And so we need to be conscious when we are choosing our destination about their recycling strategies. And so sellers who are there, we need you guys to start telling us that when you are pitching to us. What's your energy look like, and what is your recycling capabilities? And people, planners reach out to me to say, hey, how do I figure this out? What do I do here? And they're always shocked to find out, destination XYZ doesn't compost at all, or, they don't recycle glass, when they've already gone ahead and made arrangements. So we can't be making decisions without, again, it goes back to Laura's ask questions. So we want to talk about measuring emissions a ton, because we don't want to talk about it a ton because it's so complex. We will look at that during the course. And I know I'm seeing it pop up here a little bit. People are still asking about it, but it's something that we need to, I'm going to give you 2 things to follow. The first is that if you choose to measure something, I want you to just choose one thing, like the association did. Maybe you just take flights, maybe you just take food. I like the flights one because it puts the onus on attendees to change their behavior, and we can start to access that. So Offsets, here's the key to offsets is that right now we're in a case where we are overflowing with carbon and greenhouse gas emissions. We need to reduce our emissions before we offset. So the analogy that really works, I used a diet analogy and somebody didn't like it. So the analogy that is really good is if you came home and your bathtub was overflowing, first you would turn off the tap and then you would drain the tub, right? So no point at, trying to drain with offsets if you haven't yet turned off the tap or at least slowed it. So, and recycling, I just want to finish on recycling is really, most of what we think we're recycling isn't getting recycled. So I think we need to rethink that we're doing some great good when we drop something into the recycling bin. The only thing that is recycled on a consistent basis that has good value, I'm not going to tell you. Some of you have been here long enough. You've heard me harping on this. Somebody put into the chat, what's the one material that I think we should recycle and is worthwhile? So you go ahead and put it into the chat. So on Sunday, you'll get all of your answers. Plus we've done a really fun crossword. Yes, Hannah, it is aluminum. Well done, you. You're going to get all of your answers plus a really fun crossword that we made for you, plus some book recommendations. I'm going to ask you when you get that email on Sunday to share it with 2 other people that are not here today. I'm also going to ask you to start putting sustainability questions into your RFP. And if you are a seller and you are booking a hotel room for a conference, or you are booking a plane or a train or car rental, ask everywhere about their sustainability plan. Do you have an offsetting program? What is your sustainability plan? We'll get to, digging into what is effective or what isn't, but we've got to start by asking those questions, right? I want to thank everyone for being here. We're coming up at the end of our hour. I'm probably going to go back to my sick bed after this. So I promise I will get to all of your questions tomorrow. We have a fun little website to share with you. It was created by the author of the book, I Want a Better Climate Catastrophe. It is adult oriented. So if you have little ones around, maybe just a heads up. He does use some strong language that is adult oriented, not to everyone's taste. So a little bit of Black humor, but I wanted to wish you all a happy Thanksgiving. Look forward to chatting with you all online and connecting with you. Thank you for being here. And thank you for everything that you're doing. Just you being here makes a step in the right direction. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, let's go check out I Want a Better Climate Catastrophe. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Is climate change for real? I try not to think about it. Is climate change for real? I try not to think about it, okay? I'll think about it. Nope, it's not for real. Well, you may be in denial. No, I'm not in denial. It's got to be a Chinese hoax. It must be. I don't like your solution, so it can't be true. Isn't the climate always changing? If it gets too bad, God will intervene. You may be in denial. Is climate change for real? Okay, yes. Next question. Are we fucked? I try not to think about it. Are we fucked? I try not to think about it. Are we fucked?
Well, not quite yet, but we are definitely in a climate emergency, and we need to start acting like it now.